to screwing with the wrong people.
I'm fit as a fiddle. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the episode review for Self-Help. Yes, I knew it, because they actually said it.
Whoa, dude.
They said it when Rosita and Abraham were banging in the fucking back room.
Dirt.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
he's
yeah,
like
that was a hot-
self-help or whatever.
Eugene was a peeping Tom.
Yeah.
Oh my god. No, like I haven't done it before.
Yeah.
I always watch it.
Yeah, when my wife and kids die, I was just like, oh, that's the end of banging.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so
Holy shit, this episode had a
it was
lot
funny. The beginning of the episode seemed slow, and I was like, all right, get to the point. I know they're having troubles. They want to get to the mission. They want to get. I didn't know what the point of the episode was. Like, I knew, yes, they were showing the story of the group that split off and what they were doing, but like, what was like? I was trying to find the reason for it. And then when Eugene said to Tara, obviously huge spoilers. I say it in the description, so there shouldn't be any discrepancy. But I'm going to say spoilers because there's a lot of big reveals in this episode. When Eugene was telling Tara that he compromised, well, that's the word Eugene likes to use. I
compromised the bus. I put glass in the pipes. It should have blown up earlier, though.
Yeah, I was wondering, because Abraham, that truck flipped. I was like, is Abraham an idiot?
Yeah,
Did he,
they didn't really make it clear, because, like, something exploded. Like, you heard an explosion, then, like, they just show the bus going out of control. I was like, what happened?
Yeah, I was like, it's fucking Abraham having hallucinations about his wife and kids that we saw flashbacks of. Because
this was a very heavy episode for Abraham. We saw a lot.
That was interesting. Every single time the episode started again from the commercial break,
it was one of his flashbacks.
It showed a flashback to Abraham doing something.
We saw what happened to his family.
Yeah, that's
how he beat the crap out of whoever was their group, and then his family became so terrified that they ran away and then got eaten.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is in the comics, it's basically Abraham is with Rick and Carl when Rick rips the guy's throat out, Bowman. Yeah. So it's instead of Michonne, it's Abraham, and so after Rick does that, Abraham kind of calms Rick down, kind of like Daryl does, and then Abraham gives him his whole life story of what happened, and he tells him just in like this, one-on-one between the two of them. That's what happens in the comics, and because they didn't know each other in this case, they kind of did it different. I like how they did it though, because it showed.
No, it was good.
It tied Abraham's personal kind of conflict, his inner conflict. And
he has such a bad anger. Oh my god.
But why were his wife and kids, like, he was trying to protect them, was he not? Was he maybe just killing those guys for the sake of killing them? Or?
We don't really know that, but, like, he brutally murdered those people.
With a soup can.
Fucking soup can. Like, I mean, it's kind of the same thing how what Daryl was saying to Rick after he ripped out Bowman's throat is, like, you gotta clean up. Like, your son just watched you completely go savage on someone. Like, he doesn't think you're a human right now. So, like, his family was kind of in the same position. It was like they were so afraid of him, they didn't know what would happen to them. So, because, like, obviously when his anger switches, he goes apeshit.
He goes Super Bowl, man. Yeah,
oh
but
God, dude, he just almost killed Eugene at the end of that episode. He punched
I don't know.
him out.
Eugene was knocked out. I don't think he's dead, but he's definitely
he was knocked out, and then he fell flat in his face and, like, crushed his skull.
Yeah,
like,
ow, that fucking hurt,
yeah. Like, just the sound of that, I was like...
But, like, just the thing is, like, you literally... Like, I don't even know what Abraham's gonna do now, because you literally crushed Abraham.
Because that was his soul, like... That was the only thing that kept him going, was getting to DC and protecting Eugene, because that was just it. That was all he had.
Yeah, and he just, like,
broke
down.
He's obviously sacrificed so much, like, all the people, because, like, he sacrificed all, like, just for the decisions that would benefit going to DC. Like, he could have stayed with Rick, and, like, even before that, everything he's made decisions on.
Yeah, and then Eugene lists the people that were sacrificed their lives for him along the way, and just because he was a coward and he wanted to survive. Now, again, I keep bringing up the comics, but in the comics he does have some usefulness, because they find out he's worthless when they get to DC, but he ends up making ammunition for him. He goes to the engineering department and he makes ammo for Rick's group, especially when they get in a fight with some other people. Right. So he does have a purpose, but it's not the purpose we wanted to
and
know.
He kept saying that. He's like, I know I am smarter than most people, but I'm not a scientist. But, like, and it's kind of evident, like, he does have that personality. Like, he's extremely, like, so like he's got that genius complex where like he can't really function in real life, but he's really creative and he could think out things really well. But like, I mean, obviously he had to be kind of smart to make such a deceptive fucking plan and make everyone believe him.
The thing is now the show loses its drive because
at least that part of
there was a new mission for the
I mean, Rick's mission all along I still don't think he 100% bought onto that, because even at the church when Abraham was getting everyone riled up and ready to go, he was still not willing to do that. So I think even though like they kind of made amends, him and Rick and Abraham, I still think that like Rick's priority is just keeping everyone alive at this point. He didn't really believe in fixing the world at all when Bob was talking to him. So
yeah, it was just interesting. Like everyone, even like Abraham more so, but everyone was like heartbroken when they were like, because it gave them for the first time hope that there was a way to kind of put an end to all their suffering that they've gone through, almost give a purpose to it. And that was Abraham's speech back in episode 3. That there's a purpose behind everything you've gone through, and
that's kind of what was getting people through shit. And
now,
now the group's separated.
The interesting thing is Eugene's stunt with the fire hose. I think
that was interesting.
Again, I think the reason he did it was because Tara found out. I think he was trying to prove his usefulness and say, "Hey, I'm not completely worthless. I just helped you take down this surprise attack of Walker." So, I think, but I mean, too little, too late, because I don't think he could have. I don't know what Abraham was doing, because he was walking the opposite way, and he was like, I don't know. He was just losing his fucking mind. Abraham was just like,
he wanted to drive through that entire. There was like hundreds of thousands of zombies. I mean, like the picture wasn't that clear, but like that farm field where they're like, oh, what's that smell? That stench. Yeah, there was like thousands of walkers out there. It's like.
Watching it on TV, I couldn't really tell what was going. I thought, because they're like, "Oh, what's that stench?" And I couldn't tell what was on the horizon.
It was like a giant.
Yeah, and it was basically a spin. I almost thought that was Herschel's farm for a minute, because it kind of looked the way the fences were. I didn't know if that was like the entrance to his farm or shit, because that got overrun in the end of the second season. I don't know if they had like looped all the way back there or some shit. I have no fucking idea. But
we haven't seen a giant horde. Well, I mean, there was all that shit that went down in the prison, but. That was kind of because they drew it in with all their gunfire.
And then same thing with the Terminus thing. But, yeah, so, yeah, you know what the thing is, though? The reason why this is my theory, the reason why Abraham broke more than anyone else is because he wanted this purpose of him saving the world to be, like almost amending him losing his wife and kids. Like, he wanted it to be worth it. Like, I just lost my wife and kids. You see, he was about to kill himself.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like, how they showed that scene where he saw his family dead, and there was nothing he could do about it, and he was just about to off himself, and right before he pulled the trigger, over his shoulders, fucking fat ass Eugene's like, "Help me!" And there's fucking 3 walkers. He couldn't even save himself then. He's like, "Help me, help me!" And Abraham starts walking away, and Eugene, and right there on the spot, Eugene, that's where it all started from. Is like, so that, going back to what you said, like, the idea of DC and stopping this whole thing has been with him since literally, like, the moment after he found his family death. So that's, like, all he's had to cope with, losing his family.
Yeah, so. I don't know how Abraham's gonna. He has no purpose now. Like, other than just survive.
I think Glenn's gonna have to lead them back wherever they go, because right now Abraham's so like.
But the way I'm seeing this going is that Carol and Daryl, they go chase the guys from the hospital.
Yeah.
And then Daryl comes back, rallies Rick and the troops. They go to Atlanta and kind of solve that whole conflict. Because something that I didn't realize, there was a whole bunch of analysis videos I saw popping up. People thought that Rick and that cop were related, because Rick's a cop. So they thought that Rick was related to he knew those cops. Because Rick, he wasn't a cop in Atlanta, but he must have had contact with other cops in the Georgia area. So people were like, oh, does Rick know those cops from, like, a job standpoint? Which, I don't know. That would be kind of weird if that was just brought in at the end. Because it seems like they kind of have their own thing going, but... I've seen the synopsises for the last couple of episodes, and it seems like they go in, guns blazing, kind of trying, kind of taking down these people at this hospital place kind of thing. So it kind of diverted. Once the hunters they got rid of the hunters. Now it's like, okay, we got this new threat, and then I guess maybe after that they'll move on to DC or whatever. So because Eugene still said, he's like, well, we can still go to DC because I think there's a safe place there, which we know there is, but
it's gonna take a lot of reconciling. Like right now, I don't think anyone in that group wants to go to DC anymore. Like, it's probably not going to be until they get back to a group as a whole and make a decision on a whole where they'll go. But
yeah, like how are they going to break that? They go back to Rick. Funny story. By
the way,
he doesn't know the cure. It's like,
watch, Rick turns around and punches Eugene in the face. Like, no, we already went through this. Don't.
Yeah. But the thing is, maybe this gives Rick a bit of hope, like in doing his mission. I don't know if this changes Rick at all, because Rick is still kind of on the, I'm a badass kind of thing with his, all that. But I don't know.
So do we think? I don't know. Maybe once we get out of this scene, like maybe Glenn and them are gonna try and head back to the church. Who knows?
They have to head back. There's no way they can progress forward.
Right.
I mean,
but then Rick's probably not gonna be there because Daryl came back and.
I don't think they'll come back to Glenn and the others, because we won't get to see what happens next for another 2 episodes, because next week's episode is just going to get us caught up to when Daryl runs through the woods back to the church. Right. It's going to be that span of when they take off in the car and then when Daryl gets back. It's going to show what happened when they followed the car. Yeah. And it's going to be, these 2 badasses, if you think about Daryl and Carol, they're both badasses their own way, kind of going in commando trying to find these people. It's going to be a good episode next week. I'm actually really looking forward to next week's episode. This week's episode, I expected it to be a little dragging, Abraham saying, move it, kind of rally the troops, and a little bit of lagging trying to get to the next point. But this episode really surprised me. They did well for an episode that I otherwise thought would drag. That's my thing.
I mean, they released so many different fucking bombshells. Like, first it was Eugene, fucking with the bus. We thought it was like a crash, but he actually fucked with it. Yeah. Then they get to the town, and fucking Abraham's going ham, he's like, I need some ass.
Abraham's going ham, yeah.
Abraham going ham.
But that's what I've liked with every episode so far of season 5. There's it doesn't feel it's just this stale episode just for character development. There's always something that keeps you guessing and going forward, and that's what I think they're doing. They're doing it right this season. They're
definitely keeping it interesting, because no episode has gone by yet out of the 5 episodes this season with something being like, oh, nothing major happened. Like, no, we've had major plot twists in every fucking episode.
Yeah, there's just been, like, we thought the Hunters were gonna make it to the mid-season finale. They got axed in the 3rd episode. We've just had so many kind of, I didn't think they'd do that kind of thing. So it was just kind of like a little bit of a shocker kind of thing. But so yeah, all right. So I don't know.
Everything's in chaos.
I'd give this episode a 9. I definitely think it deserved to be in like the 9, the A range in terms of grades. But I think I give this a 9.
Me too.
Just because of,
I liked it better than last week's episode, and I'll give it a 9.
Yeah, I mean, even last week's episode, you still had a bit of a twist at the end. They made it more, again, like I said last week, they made it more fast paced than I otherwise thought they would. So yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. And
we have 3 episodes left, and you could bet basically anything that a lot's gonna happen in those 3 episodes.
And so hopefully they get some new purpose, and I guess we'll see what happens. So until next week, adios.
Whoop, whoop.